ado, I'd like to introduce Kara Package. Kara is the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Grant Programs at HUD's Office of Community Planning and Development in Washington, D.C. She will speak to us about our announcement. And before I turn it over to you, Kara, I just want to acknowledge my HUD Detroit staff that is here, who will be working with the city on the funds that we're going to announce today. We've got Keith Hernandez, who's the director of our local Community Planning and Development Department. We've got Kimberly Haygood, who works with these types of funds that are going to be awarded today. Bobby Brown, who is a manager in that division as well. And Chelsea Jones for my staff, who is a program analyst. So just giving that plug because HUD will be working very, very closely with the city on this announcement and what it's going to be used for. So with that, we welcome Kara up here and thank her for coming all the way from DC during a snowstorm, but you made it. So that's the important thing. So Kara, here you go.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today in Detroit. And I'm Kara Package, and I've had the pleasure of working with HUD's Office of Community Planning and Development over the last 4 years, and our partners here in the field and across the country to increase housing supply, to support housing enabling infrastructure, to empower local communities, and to ensure investments reach neighborhoods, small businesses, and support economic revitalization. It has been in the honor of a lifetime to serve in the Biden-Harris administration, knowing that our leadership at the highest level is committed to addressing housing, infrastructure, and local community needs. One ever-expanding need nationwide is our response to and preparation for extreme weather and weather-related disasters. Over recent years, these devastating events have increased both in intensity and in frequency. And unfortunately, that trend continued through 2023, 2024, and if you watch the news today, you can see it's continuing into this year. While no two disasters are alike, whether it's devastating wildfires out west, tornadoes and flooding in the Midwest, or hurricanes along the East Coast and the Gulf, people whose lives are impacted have the same needs. They're looking for a safe and secure place to call home and hope for the future. We've heard from communities and families continually about the need for repair to homes, cities who need improvements to infrastructure to minimize future risks, and that everyone is seeking a sense of security for their jobs, their families, their schools, and their community to be resilient in adversity for the months and years to come. While our colleagues at FEMA are often the first on the ground for severe weather, HUD plays an important role and has for decades in long-term disaster recovery. Following a disaster, Congress has the ability to appropriate supplemental funding through the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program, known as CDBG-DR. And they did. They appropriated $12 billion in December for disasters occurring in 2023 and 2024. We've seen time and time again that this funding makes a significant local impact. And some of those disasters occurred right here in Michigan and in Detroit, where we've experienced severe floods, tornadoes, and storms. That's why the Biden-Harris administration has continued to commit historic resources to increase community resilience, knowing that disasters impact communities nationwide and they disproportionately impact families of modest means. At HUD, we took a historic step a few years ago, calling out for public feedback on how to improve our disaster recovery program. We received more than 700 comments telling us how we could make things more fast, more efficient, more effective, and more resilient. So thank you to anyone in the room who submitted comments and for the expertise of local staff in administering funds over the years. And I'm proud to announce that today we published a new notice on disaster recovery, making it easier for survivors to access information, simplifying the documentation and administrative requirements so that cities like Detroit have an easier time using funds, and expanding eligible activities for local disaster preparedness, rental assistance, and resilience. We have done absolutely everything we can, short of Congress taking action to permanently authorize the program, to ensure that CDBGR is strengthened. We've reduced red tape, supported communities, and helping survivors as they rebuild. So I'm here for the exciting part of the news. Proud to announce that the city of Detroit will directly receive nearly $347 million to support recovery from severe storms and flooding occurring in August 2023. During this time, areas in lower Michigan, especially here in Detroit, experienced several storm fronts that brought in heavy rain, strong winds, and severe tornadoes. This caused damage to homes like basements flooding or roof repairs. It damaged infrastructure, caused some utility disruptions, and I'm proud to say that this funding can help fill the gaps of where financing is needed for repairs, but also to ensure that there are improvements and upgrades to protect the community in the future. This will also be the first class of CDBG grantees to use the new and improved implementation guidance provided through what we're calling the Universal Notice. So thank you, Mayor, City Council, all the staff from the City of Detroit for inviting us here today to celebrate that there's funding on the way. And also know that HUD will continue to be your partner as you recover, as you build more resilient communities, and you support local residents. We hope this grant can help, and we look forward to seeing how you use it to increase resilience for years to come.
Okay, it's my turn again because I specifically asked that I be able to introduce the mayor. And actually, the mayor reminded me of a story I'm going to tell you guys really quick, that we went from being foes to friend. And I'll tell you how that happened. Back in the 90s, when I was working as an attorney in HUD's Office of Counsel, Mayor Duggan actually sued HUD, I should say. Back when he was the prosecutor for Wayne County, we had a building in Midtown Detroit that was overrun by drug dealers, drug infested. I think it had the #1 amount of police runs in that precinct at the time, and he went to try to seize the building. And I remember talking to him on the phone. I said, "You can't do that. That's a federal building." He said, "Try me." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't want to try him." So anyways, long story short, today he is a good friend, a great steward of HUD funds and of HUD programs, and we are lucky to have him here as Mayor of Detroit, and I'm going to welcome him up to the podium to say a few words.
Mike left off. The reason we're friends is that building is now an 8-story apartment occupied in Alexandria, right down the street from the DMC. I want to thank Deputy Assistant Secretary Kara Package for her support on this. This is an historic grant, and Mike Polzinelli has been Detroit's partner for the entire time I have been here, as well as Keith Hernandez. But this is just remarkable. You know, you see stories on climate change, and you say there's wildfires in California, there are horrible hurricanes in Florida and North Carolina, South Carolina, drought across the South, and you think Michigan's not affected. But those who are here know we are affected. And the way we're affected is in sudden rainstorms. We experienced it in 2014, in 2016, in 2021, in 2023. We've got a sewer system built to handle 4 inches of rain in a 24-hour period, which was great for the 20th century. We've now had 2 incidents where it's been 5.5 and 6 inches of rain. And what happens then is the basements in this city back up. And it is devastating to go downstairs and find 3 or 4 feet of raw sewage in your basement, lose your furnace, lose your dryer, lose your belongings. FEMA can write you checks, but it doesn't replace what you go through. And I've raised this issue with the White House, with the EPA, and with HUD, and we were appreciative to get $95 million following the 2021 flood, which we basically used for the low-lying areas got hurt the worst. But this is a citywide problem, and I will show you why it's a citywide problem. Well, people in this town all know we have 1,800 miles of alley sewers throughout the city that connect homes to your water line. And everybody in Detroit understands how it works. You flush your toilet, you use your shower, you run your sink, that goes down to the sewer line through your backyard and into the alley. And everybody knows what the alley sewer situation is like. Most of them were installed 70 to 90 years ago. That's our infrastructure in our alleys. And none of us as council can tell you goes to a community meeting where somebody doesn't come and say the sewer in our alley is collapsed. Well, that may be a problem just driving down it. It is a bigger problem because it means that the sewage flowing from your house can't get to the alley. And if we have a rainstorm, it'll infiltrate those pipes and it will push that sewage back up into your basement. It doesn't even have to be a big rainstorm in a number of neighborhoods. It can be a small rainstorm. And so this is an issue that we've been talking about for a while. It may seem boring to you, but it isn't boring to people who lose their belongings. And so this is an alley sewer where tree roots, where the tree 70 years ago didn't have those kind of roots, the tree roots literally grow in to the alley sewers and block it. You can imagine what happens when a rainstorm comes and the sewage then backs up into your basement. And even if it isn't the main sewer, those branches you see there, they're coming out of a neighbor's house. In many cases, the tree roots over 50, 60 years infiltrated the sewer line in your backyard and grew right into the main sewer in the alley, which means, again, any kind of rain at all, and your belongings are at risk. It's my responsibility to do everything I can to protect the families of this city from sewage in the basements every time there's a rainstorm. And we've had a number of efforts be made. I see Bill Wolfson here from the Great Lakes Water Authority. They've done a great job at building pumping capacity. Gary Brown in the Water Department have gone through your storm drains in the street and cleaned out those clogs. In the low-lying areas, we put in back check valves so people could at least stop it. But here's the problem, is that you have 1,800 miles of sewer that basically have not been touched in 70 to 90 years. And so the water department went through with cameras, and these green triangles here, Cornerstone Village on the far east side, North Rosedale on the west side, and the north end, every green triangle on these maps is a place where a house is blocked between the house and the alley sewer. Those are good neighborhoods. I mean, this is what Detroiters are facing every day, and it gets worse by the year. Now, this sewer system was built by 1.8 million residents in its prime. Now we have fewer than 700,000, and how do you begin to rebuild? We couldn't possibly have the resources to address this on our own. And so what has happened today is remarkable. We now have the resources to go through, and we think for sure do 10,000 houses in the next 2 years to start with. This is an opportunity to make the homes in this city much more secure. It's going to take years to rebuild, but this is a huge jumpstart. The way this process works is that City Council will hold public hearings. We have to have a plan, which I hope we have up to HUD within 60 days, on how we spend this money. And one of the nice things is, in addition to this, we believe in eligible use is to build new affordable housing with resiliency, because we have a lot of people stressed out on our housing conditions because of our climate change. And so we think we can put together a package that will both deal with the basement backups as well as build badly needed affordable housing for this city. And council will be moving quickly on this, and we will be, I am hopeful, to having a grant and a proposal up to HUD in the next 60 days, because we can't wait. I can't tell you whether the next big storm is coming in the summer of 25 or the fall of 26, but the rainstorms are getting more sudden and they're getting more severe. That's just the truth. And we have to face up to that, and we have to protect our residents. Council's been a full partner on this, and I want to give the council members a chance to thank the Biden administration and HUD themselves, starting with Council President Mary Sheffield.
Thank you. Thank you, and good morning to everyone. It is such a great day here in the city of Detroit to have such a significant investment come to the city of Detroit at very uncertain times in our political landscape, I might say. I want to start off by thanking HUD and all of the leadership for the work that they have done. Also, Director Schneider, who does a phenomenal job here with the city of Detroit, the work that she has done. And of course, Mayor Duggan, who is constantly advocating for the needs of Detroiters at the federal level. And we are certainly blessed to have his leadership and his support in his advocacy that has helped bring these funds here to the city of Detroit. I will say that when I think about this funding coming to Detroit, I think about how this directly is going to improve the quality of life for Detroiters. I have seen how the CDBG current disaster relief funding has helped so many Detroiters as it relates to basement backup protection program, the flooding within our communities, and this additional funding will help with our aging infrastructure. We all know that the funding that we have locally is not enough to fix the aging infrastructure in Detroit, and so this funding will go a lot more farther and reach more people. The mayor talked about alleys. I have to mention, as frontline elected officials, we get the calls, we see the emails, and we go out to these communities and we see firsthand the impact that not just major floods, but just heavy rain has on residents in Detroit. We get calls when it rains in Detroit, people are devastated because not only do they have basement backup issues, they can't even access the sometimes it's the ingress and egress to people's homes is through their alleys. And so there are several infrastructure issues within the alleys that must be addressed. And so I am just proud to have this funding to address a lot of the quality of life issues as it relates to building resiliency within our system, addressing the aging infrastructure of our water infrastructure in Detroit, and making sure that Detroiters receive an improved quality of life. We will act expeditiously, but also responsibly to make sure that we are following the process that is laid out to ensure that this money gets into the hands of those to improve the quality of life for Detroiters. So thank you to all involved, and I will now bring up Councilmember Durhal, followed by Councilmember Benson.
Thank you, Council President. And first, I would like to thank the Biden and Harris administration, who has been absolutely phenomenal here in the city of Detroit by putting resources where they need to be. Thank you to HUD, as well, Director Snyder, as well as you, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership on working to improve our infrastructure. I can tell you one of my first days on the job, the first announcement that I was at was with the mayor. We were walking in wintertime in the aviation subdivision with the EPA when we were rolling out the basement backup protection plan. My district, the aviation subdivision, was hit very hard. And so one of the reasons I'm thankful today, not only for funds that we can start addressing our infrastructure problems here in the city, but we're letting our residents know that we're serious about it, and then we have partners that are serious about it. When we were walking through that neighborhood and we had the opportunity to go down and see those basements firsthand and people who have lost memories, certificates, diplomas, things that you cannot get back that are priceless. The question was, how are you guys going to fix this so this never happens to again or to other communities around the city? And how we're going to fix it is what we're doing today with this resiliency fund that will help us address one of the biggest issues across the state, but particularly here in the city of Detroit, which is our broken infrastructure, our aging infrastructure. So again, thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you so much for your funding, and we're looking forward to continuing to push this forward. I know it's going to come in front of council. We anticipate that we're going to have tremendous support for that, as well as affordable housing as we look to rebuild our city. With that, I'd like to bring one of our greatest partners who's a champion from District 3, Councilmember Scott Benson.
Thank you for that, Member Durhal, and good morning to everybody. And so it's an honor and a privilege to be here. And it's number one, I want to thank the Biden administration and HUD for bringing these resources to the city of Detroit, and then my colleagues and the administration with the mayor to help implement this and deploy these resources. And the fact that we're seeing this level of support to the city of Detroit means there's a level of confidence from the Biden-Harris administration that we as a city of Detroit can get this done and get it done in a timely manner. So really looking forward to that. This also is just evidence of how important a robust partnership is with the federal government when it comes to getting resources to help implement catastrophic change to help implement catastrophic support for our residents right here in the city of Detroit. And just looking forward to seeing how we're going to be able to refresh, revitalize our current aging infrastructure when it comes to our stormwater as well as our sanitary sewer for the residents in the city of Detroit. In addition, monies that are going to go towards affordable housing are so critical in this time frame, and I'm really looking forward to the creative solutions that we're going to come up with our residents through the public hearing process when we talk about opportunities such as manufactured housing, housing without basements. Maybe that's an answer as well. Just really looking forward to how we implement this money and how that was done successfully over in North Corktown with the Gilbert Family Foundation and their pilot program. So just really looking forward to how we put this money into the neighborhoods and how we improve the quality of life for our residents. And that brings the opportunity to work with our at-large council persons as well. So I'd like to bring up Councilman Coleman Young.
Thank you, Member Benson. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry to see this long table. I kind of feel like a knight at the round table right now. When I first came in here, like, this is a press conference, I'm gonna get knighted up in here. Before I begin, I just want to thank the Biden administration for all the work they've done. I want to thank the leadership of HUD. I also want to thank the tireless efforts and leadership of the mayor, as well as my colleagues. I mean, I don't know about you, but I still have vapor trail from the debate that we had about getting this money and getting this issue done. So it's nice to finally tackle it and see it in real life. You know, you hear about this money, but to actually secure it, I think is a really good thing. And I just wanted to just start with a quote by saying that the greatest thing that a man could do with his life is something that will outlast it. And this is work that will outlast all of us. The work of being able not just to fix our infrastructure, which is a major need in the city of Detroit, but also to be able to repair infrastructure, to be able to make sure that people's houses aren't flooded. I've talked to a person when on the campaign trail that was a quadriplegic that could not use his basement, sitting in the wheelchair because it was flooded. To be able to prevent that from happening again, to be able to make sure that we have housing in a time that's desperately needed, where people are looking for homes and they can't find it, because homes are more than just bricks and beams, they're hopes and dreams. To be a part of the opportunity of building this city and being able to address these issues with this $346 million is why I got in the business in the first place. And so I just want to say to everyone here, I want to say to the leadership team, thank you so much for being able to do this, to go about the business of being able to address these issues of investing in infrastructure and building the city back again, and also making sure that we don't have this happen again, making sure that we have strong infrastructure, but also making sure that we serve the people and we get the job done. And so with that being said, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce the woman, the myth, the legacy, the legend herself. Let's give a round of applause for Julie Schneider from HRD, everybody.
Thank you, and I believe it's now good afternoon. So what an incredible day. So my name is Julie Schneider. I'm the director of the Housing and Revitalization Department. Our mission in the Housing and Revitalization Department, or HRD, is to soundly and transparently invest funds and deliver services to ensure that Detroit's neighborhoods and housing is high quality, affordable, and accessible to and for all Detroiters. And so with that, I am incredibly grateful to the Biden administration, to Ms. Package for being here to make this announcement of this incredible allocation that will have a major and long-lasting influence. As Councilmember Young said, this will have an effect for decades. And so, as the mayor said, and we've had a number of storms in the past decade that are supposed to be 1 in 100-year storms. And they put an incredible strain on our infrastructure and our housing. Quite frankly, our housing and our infrastructure was built for a different climate than we're experiencing today. And so these funds are incredibly important to address those issues that we've been seeing more frequently. So how is this process going to work? So we're receiving the notice today. The Federal Register came out today. That initiates a process. We'll identify through the data that HUD provides what was most impacted in that storm. We'll provide public input opportunities to residents. We'll develop what's called an action plan. All of that information is available on the City of Detroit's website. You'll find it at detroitmi.gov/HRD. So for those wanting to track along the process, it'll be available there. We'll be working with council, of course, to get these funds appropriated as quickly as possible to make sure that the services that are associated with these funds and the infrastructure improvements that are associated with these funds are delivered to Detroiters as much as possible. You know, this is our third appropriation in the last 2 years, and so I'm incredibly confident that in our ability to deliver and implement these funds for Detroiters. But I want to make sure that, you know, when we get these major allocations, there's people who are making this happen. And so I want to acknowledge our Detroit field office team, of course, Mike Polsinelli, but also Keith Hernandez, Kim Haygood, Kathy Bagley, Cindy Vales, who we work with very closely. And I also want to especially acknowledge Gordon Pearson and Nicole Wise, who help us from an internal perspective in making sure that we are in compliance and implementing these funds consistent with all the rules and regulations so that they are, as I said, fundamentally, soundly and transparently invested for Detroiters. So really looking forward to delivering these funds to Detroiters and providing these services. Of course, as the mayor was talking about, there is a tremendous need and strain on the city's infrastructure, and so I would like to invite up my colleague, Mr. Gary Brown.
Thank you, Julie. And standing next to me over here is Sam Smalley, our deputy director, and he's been talking about repairing. He's been talking about this. I've been here 10 years, and he was talking about this 10 years before I got here. If we had the money, what could we do that would have the biggest impact on Detroit residential homes? And that's repairing the lateral sewer lines, getting rid of the sinkholes in alleys and things of that nature. And while I see my partners from the Great Lakes Water Authority here, they're working on plans that are 10 years in the making, long-range plans to separate the system. What we're going to be able to do is going to have an effect on Detroiters almost immediately. Within the next 2 years, we're hopeful that we're going to be able to affect 10,000 homes in the city of Detroit. And the thing that I think that I'm looking forward to the most is really getting out into the community and doing the community engagement, getting their input, because that also gives us an opportunity to kind of show off, talk about the other things that we're doing in order to mitigate flooding in the city of Detroit. So we have a great story to tell. We're looking forward to getting input from City Council as well as the community as to put the action plan together. And I couldn't be happier. This is a great Christmas gift, if you will, to come back after the Christmas holidays and find money that will affect Detroiters almost immediately. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and I'm glad you made it back from the East Coast. Yeah, as I say, before we move on to the big check, Councilwoman Waters, would you like to say a few words, or?
No, I'm happy to be here, thank you.
She's happy to be here, she said, and accept the big check. So at this point, before we take any questions from the media, my favorite part of this whole process is what I call the big check. I'm just glad I don't have to bring it back to my office and somebody else has to lug it. So if someone can grab the big check from the corner, and then we can kind of maybe gather up here for some photos. There you go.
Hold the check.
All right, you can hold the check.
Flip it around.
Flip it around.
Come on. Who wants to hold it?
There we go, yes. Now that I can do.
Who wants to hold the bitch? Go ahead. Who wants to hold the bitch up? You need to get in.
Go ahead.
I don't want the IRS coming after me.
Oh, boy.
This part I like.
So we can get us out right here in the middle first. 3, 2, 1. Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Simon.
You talked about citizens giving feedback for this plan. What type of feedback are you
Yeah.
looking for from the citizens?
So what will happen is we'll have conversations between the administration and council on some ideas that we have, and there'll be public sessions where people understand we can't use this money for anything we want. The only thing this money can be used for is resiliency to prevent future disasters. There's not a time we get a grant program that people don't show up at council meetings saying, I want more money for this or that. But we will stay within the HUD guidelines. And then once council and the administration narrow it down to some choices, we'll go to the public. And my guess is one of the biggest questions is going to be, where do we start? Because we're the 10,000. We got to go to places where there's some density, so there's efficiency. We also ought to be looking at the ones that are the sewer lines that are in the worst shape. Some combination of that has to be the process, and I know Gary and Sam will have ideas on formulas, and we'll go from there. But we've done this twice already without any drama. Yes?
As you guys are developing your action plan, has the city identified any communities or areas that are in most dire need of repairs?
Yeah, what I showed you before was DWSD went in with cameras into North Rosedale, Cornerstone, and the North End and found overwhelming need in those areas. We know the areas that have the most basement backup flooding, and there'll be some combination of analysis of we want to have more bang for the buck. We want to go on a block where we can get, once you open it up and start going down, you want to get as many houses as you can. So they're going to have to figure that out. But I would say in the next 30 days or so, DWSD will have an idea, guidelines on what areas we do. We think we can do 5,000 the first year and 5,000 the second year. Obviously, we'll touch all parts of the city. Council will be insistent on that, I'm pretty sure. And we'll find the right way to blend those. Yeah.
How much, is there room for changing up this?
Yeah. So anybody who is interested can go to the HUD website and look up CDBG-DR, and there are pages of rules and regulations on what you can do and what you can't do. We have to deal with reality. And reality is we need to get this work started. So I don't intend to propose 27 little projects that will take 10 years to do. I'm hoping that we have 3 or 4 major areas that we can get contracts out this year and get work started this year. But we will see how it goes in the process. We are going to be guided, and I think the HUD officials will tell you a few things that are clearly within the guidelines that are designed for resiliency will be a whole lot easier to get approved by HUD quickly than a lot of small projects.
With this bitter cold, we see so many water main breaks.
Yeah.
Could that fall within the guidelines to use some of this funding?
Yeah, so here's what you got to think about. This has to be resiliency and climate change. The water flowing in is a much harder case to make unless you had a flood that damaged it. It is protecting the water flowing out, the sewer system, that I suspect will be the biggest impact. But again, they'll go through that process. But Gary, wouldn't you see it that way?
Yes, absolutely.
So this is preventing basement flooding in future rainstorms, and future rainstorms are coming. And every time I'm in neighborhoods, and Fred Durhall talked about the fact we walked the aviation sub together, you can say to folks this was the biggest storm in 500 years, but when the entire block is stacked 3 feet high with basement belongings to be hauled away, they don't really want to hear about it. All they say to me is, why didn't you do something to prevent it? This gives us the ability to take steps to try to prevent it. Yeah.
Can you put in context how much the city spent?
Sam, how much have you been spending?
Hi, Sam Smalley, Deputy Director, Detroit Water and Sewerage. On an annual basis, our operations and maintenance crews, you know, they cleaned 500 miles of sewer this year, actually 622 miles of sewer this year, 8,000 catch basins. So that's on the operational side.
What did you say you spent?
We're also investing about $50 million a year capital, replacing sewer mains, televising, cleaning, inspecting, assessing. For every 4 miles of sewer that we televise and inspect, we have to rehabilitate 1 mile. So we're doing a very strategic means of capital intervention.
So if you think about what Sam just said, if we're spending $50 million a year in capital on the sewer system now, $346 million is a huge number. This is going to dramatically speed up the work that's being done. Yeah.
Could this funding also be used for home repairs? 'Cause I'm thinking of those repairs that we hear about.
I've become an expert only in 48 hours, but in general, if the rainstorm caused the roof damage, we could do it. But we can't just go start up a random home repair program. It has to be related to the damage from the 23 storm or the risk of similar storms. And so all these things will be evaluated, but I would say, based on my conversations already, random home repairs is not likely to get through. Right. Go ahead.
I will quickly extrapolate on that high care package from HUD again. Our CDBG-DR funding is flexible, but it is tied to a disaster. So like the mayor said, it is tied to the same types of storms damage that happened in 2023. So that could include things like home repair, it could include infrastructure, it could include anything that is within the guidelines to make repairs. But we'll say 2 things on that. When you get into individual properties, there are different requirements than when you do broad infrastructure. So if you're looking at home repairs, we'd be making sure those are homes that are occupied or owned by low to moderate income individuals. Whereas if you're doing infrastructure, we looked at it at a larger area impact. And I will also say I'm very impressed with the mayor and the city council and the team here. Oftentimes when folks get funding, it takes them some time to figure out where their needs are. It takes some time to develop a plan. It takes some time to gather the data. And it could take months for folks to get us what we need on our end to approve the expenditure of the funds. And from what I'm hearing today, between the data and the plan and the vision and really the support from your community, it seems like you're ahead of the curve. And want to commit that our team at HUD is your partner in that. So as you work through your plan, if you have questions, our field office here is happy to help. Our headquarters office on disaster recovery. And we stand at the ready to continue to partner with you as you figure out the requirements. Because we put a lot out there, but also noting that the notice we put out today should make it easier, should make it more flexible. We've really heard feedback and are doing everything we can to ensure funding can reach communities quickly.
Thank you. Good. And so if I saw yesterday, it was $12 billion nationally you put out?
For 47 disasters.
So that is enormous. I look at it from understanding the reality of government every day. I want our plan to be in ahead of the other $11.8 billion getting evaluated, because the sooner we get it in, the sooner we get approved, the sooner the work starts and people benefit. So I do expect our city council to move at a rate faster than the rest of America. They normally do. And I expect that we will again.